Okay, everybody. Good evening. My name is Andres Gaitan, and I'm your new dental assistant program instructor, or one of the dental assistant program instructors. Today, we're going to talk about the dental radiology, and inside of dental radiology, there's a very important topic that is called landmarks. Landmarks are something that when you look in your X-ray, and it's easy to spot and helps us to identify certain um, anatomical tissues or anatomical signs that help us to get to the diagnostic. I don't expect for you guys to get into diagnosing anything through radiology. That's the dentist's job, but it is really helpful when you point out something to him before he comes into the room to see the patient. And that way, when he goes in, talks to the patient, looks at the X-ray, it's very easy for him to get to a faster diagnosis with the help of his assistant. Excuse me. For that being said, the topics covered in this review are radiology, anatomy, and histology, extraoral assessments, occlusion, periodontics, pharmacology, pathologies, fluoride and nutrition. That's for prevention. It's really important. And it most likely will be your job to do that part in the dental office, help out with the cleaning and the placement of sealants and also the placement of fluoride. Medication and guidelines. Dental emergencies. Also, it's very important to see how you handle in the dental office when there's a dental emergency. How fast can you help the patient and get him to a comfortable moment so he can see the patient, so the doctor can see the patient and get to a diagnosis and treatment plan. Instrumentation, which is very important. You need to know your instruments, the order in which most of the dentists use it. Every dentist is different, but in their way, they use all the instruments that you are going to learn how to use it, and you are going to learn what they are for. So basically, yes, they use all the instruments in a different order, between one and the other, but in theory, it's all of the instruments that you should know of. And also very important, and especially now with COVID-19 and the pandemic going on, is sterilization and infection control. There are certain topics in there that we're going to talk about. Things have changed because of the moment that we're living right now with COVID-19 in terms of sterilization and infection control. It became more strict. Not that before it wasn't followed. Yes, it was followed, but now it's very important. It became the most important part before you come and bring the patient into the room, to do the proper disinfection, to do the proper cleaning, to handle and sterilize the instrument in a proper way, to make sure that members of the office, the doctors, and the patients, as well as the assistants, are in safe. So we're going to determine what are, in the graphic, you're going to see the air spaces. The air spaces are the cavities in our mouth that are pneumatic and they're full of air. Maxillary sinus, frontal sinus, and those are the excuse me, I just have bad allergies to certain things here and the dust and everything. So I apologize for that. It's just in allergy season and I'm not doing very well with that. The air spaces are pneumatic cavities. Like I said, the maxillary sinus and the frontal sinus are full with air. It's a pneumatic cavity that it's a very important anatomical area for us to study. Okay, so this slide, the numbers of the diagram below, and on the next slide are air spaces. They correspond to the numbers on the key that we're seeing right now. The primary anatomy key, we have the maxillary sinus, the one that we were talking about. We have the pteromaxillary fissure. We have the pterygoid plates. We have the hamulus, zygomatic arch, articular eminence, and zygomatic temporal suture. So all of these are anatomic panoramic keys, things that will help us to visualize the panoramic X-ray and see what we can identify that is not normal. So we can let the dentist know before he comes into the room, and it will be a great help for the dentist, for you to do it for your dentist, because then he'll come in prepared, just looks at the X-ray, remembers what you told him, and then sits down with the patient and talk about the diagnosis and the treatment plan. And we are going to keep on going in detail those anatomical spots. Radiopaque landmarks at the maxilla. What is radiopaque? What do you guys think a radiopaque structure could be? When we take X-rays, they're radiolucent, okay, which lets the X-rays go through, and there's radiopaque, which does not let the X-ray go through. So radiopaque could be not only certain anatomical structures, but also certain materials that we use in the restorations of the teeth. For example, an amalgam filling, a composite filling, a crown, those that has metal inside, is metal and porcelain, appear in the X-ray as radiopaque landmarks or structures. In terms of anatomy of the radiopaque landmarks, in the maxilla, we have the nasal septum, which is this part of the nose. And we have the anterior nasal spine. We got the inverted Y. It's seen in the canine premolar area. So it's basically where the canines are localized. The floor or inferior border of the sinuses, the septum, which is separated by the maxilla and the sinus into two or more compartments. The zygoma, which is another endozygoma process. Those are very important anatomical landmarks to identify. The pterygoid plates. The humulus is the hamular process. Downward is a projection of the medial pterygoid plate. And the coronoid process, which sometimes is seen overlapping to the maxillary tuberosity. Okay. So like I said, this is a group of radio-opaque landmarks, which means these structures do not allow the X-rays to go through. If they would allow the X-rays to go through, they will be radiolucents. Okay? So the radiopaque landmarks at the mandible, we got the genial tubercle, which is a slight projection located in the middle of the near surface of the body of the mandible. That gives attachment below to the hemianjoid muscle and above to the hemianglossus muscle. So when we see anatomy, we're going to remember these words because we're going to talk in detail about these anatomical structures. The mental ridge, which is right here, it extends from the premolar region to the symphysis. So the premolar here to the symphysis. The oblique ridge, it appears as a radiopaque line of varied width across the molar region. So the first one, the mental ridge, was on the premolar area. down to the symphysis. Now, the oblique ridge is from the molar area region. The ameloid ridge is an inferior and runs parallel to the oblique line. And the inferior border, it's only visible if the radial pack is deeply depressed in the floor of the mouth. So now I'm going to stop a little bit and I'm going to talk to you about this in Spanish. Entonces, básicamente, las landmarks, anatomical landmarks, son estructuras anatómicas que nos van a ayudar a identificar ciertas estructuras que nos ayudan a orientarnos al ver una radiografía panorámica. Una radiografía panorámica, como ustedes saben, es una radiografía completa de los dos procesos mandibulares, el maxilar superior y el maxilar inferior. Ahora, estas estructuras tienen ciertas otras estructuras dentro de ellas que nos ayudan a determinar ciertas cosas y a diferenciar entre lo que es normal y lo que es patológico. Para familiarizarnos un poco, tenemos imágenes radiopacas y tenemos imágenes radiolucientes. Las imágenes o radiolúcidas. Las imágenes que son radiopacas son imágenes que no permiten que sean atravesadas por los rayos, por los X-rays, por las radiografías, los rayos que vienen del equipo radiológico y no permiten que pasen esos rayos, por lo tanto rebotan y se ven como estructuras opacas, casi blancas en la radiografía. Esto no solamente incluye las partes anatómicas, sino también que incluye ciertos materiales que utilizamos en el proceso de restauración de los dientes, porque algunos tienen partículas metálicas que producen esa radiopacidad. Por ejemplo, puede ser un relleno o una cavidad rellena de amalgama o de resina o una corona de metal porcelana. Al tener el metal, no permite que pasen los rayos radiológicos. Ahora, tenemos dentro de estas estructuras lo que había dicho, radiopacas y radiolúcidas. Las radiopacas en la maxila, quiere decir en el maxilar superior, es el septum nasal, la espina nasal anterior y la Y invertida, que se ve en el área de los caninos y de los premolares. El borde inferior o el piso del maxilar, del seno maxilar, perdón, es una estructura radiopaca. El septum es que separando los maxilares del seno maxilar en dos o tres más o tres compartimentos más. El proceso cigomático y el cigoma también son estructuras anatómicas radiopacas. La tuberosidad maxilar y los platos pterigoideos. El hámulus, el proceso hamular, es una proyección del plato pterigoideo medial. Y el proceso coronoide a veces se ve como interponiéndose al maxilar, a la tuberosidad del maxilar. Entonces hace una interposición, ¿ok? O overflapping. Ahora, las estructuras radioplacas de la mandíbula, el tubérculo geniano, que es una proyección localizada en la línea media y lo más cercano a la superficie del cuerpo de la mandíbula. Entonces le das, ahí se inserta, o sea, adhiere el músculo genioide. Y hacia arriba el músculo geniogloso. El puente mentoniano se extiende desde la región de los premolares hacia la sínfisis. Y el puente oblicuo se extiende hacia la región molar, de los molares hacia atrás. El puente miloioideo. Es una estructura radiopaca inferior que corre paralela a través de las líneas oblicuas. Y el borde inferior solamente es visible si la radiografía se deprime lo suficiente en el suelo de la boca. Dependiendo, quiere decir también, dependiendo del tipo de radiografía o del tipo de técnica radiográfica, que también vamos a ver más adelante, se está utilizando. Ahora vamos a ver las imágenes radiolúcidas, como ya les había explicado. Las imágenes radiolúcidas son las que permiten el paso de los rayos X. Entonces se ven como unas entidades oscuras, casi negras. Eso es radiolúcido. Puede ser el canal donde está el nervio en los dientes. Usted lo va a ver perfectamente como una línea oscura en la raíz del diente. Y parte de la corona donde también está ubicado parte del nervio. Todo lo que es orificios por donde entran y salen arterias, venas y extremidades nerviosas también se ven como unas entidades redondas oscuras porque son agujeros. Dentro de los procesos anatómicos tenemos la sutura palatina mediana. Es la sutura que tenemos todos en el paladar. Cuando nosotros nacemos, esa estructura está separada en dos platos. A medida que vamos creciendo y vamos desarrollando, esa sutura se va cerrando hasta cerrarse completamente en el hueso palatino. Y por eso es que no tenemos el hueso palatino separado, sino que es una sola estructura. Y en esa estructura, en la mitad, se alcanza a ver perfectamente la sutura palatina en la radiografía. Cuando se trata de radiografías ocusadas, cuya técnica también vamos a entender más adelante cuando entremos en detalle en lo que es la anatomía bucal. El foramen incisivo tiene forma de una pera y está cerca o en medio de los ápices de los incisivos centrales. Usualmente por equivocación, se toma como por un absceso o una patología, cuando en realidad es una estructura anatómica normal. Como les dije, esto no es enfocado para que ustedes puedan hacer diagnósticos, sino para que logren identificar ciertas cosas. Por ejemplo, esta estructura anatómica radiolúcida es muy importante porque se ve igual que si viera un absceso. Es redonda y oscura, y de esa misma manera se ve el absceso. Lo que lo diferencia es de pronto la localización, porque está en medio de los dos dientes incisivos, mientras que el absceso se localiza en la punta de la raíz del diente que está afectado por la infección, más no en la mitad de los dos dientes. Y la fosa nasal, que también se ve en la mitad de las raíces de los incisivos, y el seno maxilar, obviamente, que es el que nosotros tenemos y es el que causa dolor de cabeza por sinusitis, pero es una cavidad neumática radiolúcida. Neumática quiere decir que está llena de aire. Okay, now going back to the English, we're going to keep on identifying the radiolucent landmarks on the mandible. We got the lingual foramen, which is a small circular area surrounded by the tuberculous, the genial tuberculous. The mental foramen is seen apically to the first and second premolar. So it's right here in this area, in between the first premolar, the second premolar. I'll show you with, it's right here. Right here where I'm showing you in the slides, this is the mental foramen. The one, and it's also confused sometimes with an abscess related to the second premolar because it's very close to the tip of the root. But it's a perfect round structure, and it's a hole where the ramifications of the nerves, of the mental nerves, come out and then goes back inside of the maxilla. So it's a very important spot. Also, it's used as a reference by the dentist to place or do the blocking of the mental nerve, because it's right there, very close and in between the two premolars. Okay. Ok, entonces volviendo a lo que yo ya había explicado, las estructuras anatómicas radiolúcidas, entre ellas tenemos en el maxilar superior, a la maxila, tenemos a la sutura palatina mediana. Esa es la sutura en la cual cuando nosotros nacemos, esa sutura está separada en dos platos en el paladar. Al momento que nos desarrollamos y crecemos, esa sutura esos dos platos poco a poco se van uniendo y crean una sutura de unión. En la mitad, justo la mitad del paladar, la recorre entre los incisivos centrales superiores hacia atrás, en la parte donde queda ya el borde entre el palatino duro, el paladar duro y el paladar blando. Okay. Esa estructura se ve perfectamente en la radiografía oclusal como una estructura radiolúcida. Quiere decir que deja pasar la luz. Entonces se ve justo en la mitad del paladar. El foramen incisivo tiene forma de una pera y está cerca o entre los ápices de los incisivos centrales. ¿Okay? Y muchas veces se equivoca o puede confundirse con ciertas patologías como un absceso. La fosa nasal está visible en la parte superior entre las raíces de los incisivos centrales. Y el seno maxilar son las dos cavidades neumáticas que están localizadas un poco debajo un poco arriba del área del primer molar superior. Es una cavidad neumática que quiere decir que está llena de aire. Y es la que causa las famosas infecciones sinusales, o cuando la persona tiene alergia, aparecen y se congestionan de líquidos y producen bastante molestia y dolor. Bueno, siguiendo con las estructuras radiográficas de la mandíbula, tenemos el foramen lingual, que es una estructura circular pequeña que está rodeada por los tubérculos genianos. El foramen mental se ve apicalmente en los primeros y segundos premolares, entre los primeros y segundos premolares, que es el que nosotros acabamos de ver. Y el canal mandibular se ve en la parte inferior del puente miloioide. Okay? So keep on talking about the mandible radiolucent landmarks. We got the lingual foramen, which is a small circular area surrounded by the genial tuberculus. The mental foramen is seen apically to the first and second premolar on the bottom, because it's part of the jaw, the lower maxillary process. The mandible canal is seen in the inferior to the miliary ridge. So if you look at the miliary ridge, it's inferior to that. Where is it located? And most of that's the canal where some of the mandibular nerves go through. Okay, now there's an exercise that I have here in which we are going to look at an X-ray. In this case, this is it looks like a periapical X-ray. We want to identify exactly this process that you see here, or this radiopaque structure. It is radiopaque, remember, because it's very white or very gray area, and that is because it doesn't let the X-rays go through. So this is identified as the coronoid process of the mandible. The coronoid process of the mandible is part of the TMJ articulation, and it's seen sometimes in certain periapical X-rays as the most posterior part of the mandible, of the maxillary, the near the maxillary molars, which would be the second, between the second and the third molar. And you can see it right here. It might be mistaken by a pathology just because of the shape, but it's really a normal anatomical process. Now, right here, we got another periapical in which we see another structure right here, which looks very radiopaque because it's very whitish. It is called the zygomate process, which is the malar bone, and it's also known as the U shape or zygoma, like this. It has the shape of a U, and it's very, very close to this structure here, which is the maxillary sinus. Ok, entonces para recordar sus estructuras anatómicas, tanto radiopacas como radiolúcidas, vamos a ver ciertas estructuras en esta radiografía periapical. Especialmente nos está pidiendo identificar esto que vemos aquí. Se puede confundir como una lesión, como un absceso mandibular, o se puede confundir a veces con un absceso dental también. Pero no es más que el proceso coronoideo de la mandíbula. Está localizado en la articulación de la mandíbula, que se logra ver en la parte más posterior del segundo molar superior y el tercer molar superior. Okay. Aquí vemos otras estructuras dentro de esta, que es otra radiografía. En este caso es una radiografía oclusal, periapical también, y nos está pidiendo identificar esta estructura completamente blanca que tiene la forma de una U, y no es nada más sino el proceso zigomático, y también es conocido como el proceso zigoma o el que tiene forma de una U. Okay, remembering your landmarks, we have here another structure right here, which is very radiopaque, very, very, very white and gray, and they want us to identify it. Now, the external oblique ridge is this structure here. It may be confused with part of the mandible bone, or it may be confused from a lesion or a pathology in the area of this third molar. It's nothing else but the external oblique ridge, which is a part of your anatomical landmarks. Okay, now remembering your landmarks, we're going to identify this little spot here. Okay, this is nothing more than the genial tuberculus, and it looks like a foramen or a hole, but it's really just a radiopaque structure. Now this here, remember the radiolucency? This is, and you see that part of the root is missing. If you compare this tooth to this tooth, you'll see that part of that root is already gone. Well, this is nothing else than a periapical abscess because of infection in the area of the nerve canal of this lower incisor. Okay. All right, now okay, how to identify radiographic bone loss? Radiographic bone loss normally appears as radiolucence or dark triangles. And the reason why they're like that, because it's a complete loss of the bone structure that surrounds the tooth that it's involved in this infection. As you can see here, there's a lot of bone loss here, as well as here, and starting over here as well. That's why it looks like a triangle, a very dark triangle, which means that there is no bone support for this tooth in particular on this area. This tooth may most likely be a candidate for extraction. There's no way that we can try to save a tooth that is in this condition. Now, why this occurs is bacterial infection. Bacterial infection, poor hygiene. It could be a lot of factors that we are going to go in detail during this course. Now, there's another view here, and there's another view here of the radiographic bone loss. Now, it's also we have to know how to recognize the vertical and the horizontal bone loss on the radiograph. Knowing that either is an indicator of periodontal disease. So they are indicators of gum disease, basically, and we just have to identify which would be the horizontal and the vertical bone loss. So horizontal bone loss is this area here, and the vertical bone loss is right here and here, okay? Normally, the bone will be around this area of support. But as you can see, there's a big difference or a big loss here and here of this bone area related to this tooth. Ok. Entonces vamos a mirar, recordando los landmarks, vamos a mirar lo que son las estructuras anatómicas radiopacas también. En este caso, continuando con esto, nos vemos nosotros este foramen, que parece un huequito, pero realmente es un proceso genial de tubérculo. Pero si vemos acá arriba esta estructura y comparamos esta estructura dental con esta estructura dental, vemos que aquí falta una gran porción de lo que es la raíz de este diente. Por lo tanto, nos atrevemos a decir que esto es una estructura radiopaca, que es compatible con un absceso periapical. Y de esta manera también una reabsorción de la raíz de este diente por una infección causada por bacterias dentro del canal nervioso. Acá vemos las estructuras radiográficas que nos ayudan a identificar la pérdida de hueso, which is bone loss. Ahora, la pérdida de hueso puede ser horizontal o puede ser vertical. En este caso, cuando se ven triángulos perfectos, oscuros o radiolúcidos, sabemos que está envuelto la horizontal y la pérdida de hueso vertical. Ahora, si vemos nosotros en medio de estos dos incisivos centrales inferiores, vemos una línea completamente oscura, radiolúcida. Quiere decir que el único soporte de hueso que tienen estos dientes es hasta aquí, en esta porción. Por lo tanto, estos dientes son candidatos también para una extracción y previamente tratamiento del hueso para poder colocar implantes en esta área. Ok, lo mismo acá y lo mismo acá. Ahora, ¿cómo identificamos esto en una radiografía? Lo que es la caries recurrente. Caries recurrente quiere decir que a pesar de que ya el diente ha sido obturado o restaurado con el tiempo, porque de pronto no quedó bien adaptada la obturación o por otros factores, se ha llenado de bacterias o han caído las bacterias aquí y causan lo que se llama una caries recurrente, que recurre debajo de lo que es la restauración. Aquí igual. La caries, como es una patología, está dentro del grupo de las estructuras radiográficas radiolúcidas. radiolúcidas. Por lo menos tú ves aquí, ustedes ven un área radiolúcida oscura y lo mismo ven un área radiolúcida oscura aquí. O sea que aquí es área recurrente debajo de esta obturación, que es bastante grande. En algunas circunstancias, estos dientes, al tratar de limpiar la caries, puede llegar muy cerca del nervio, puede necesitar de pronto un tratamiento de canales y posteriormente colocarles una corona para tratar de salvarlos, ya que el soporte de hueso no está perfecto, pero está todavía suficiente para poder mantener estos molares en su sitio. Ahora, si miramos esta radiografía, acordémonos de nuestras estructuras radiográficas radiopacas. Esta estructura es radiopaca porque es una estructura casi blanca y gris y está localizada en todo el cuerpo de la mandíbula. ¿Ok? Cerca de el borde de la mandíbula hacia arriba está el proceso cigomático. Ahora, ¿cómo identificamos esto? Si es una patología o si se trata de una estructura dentaria. Aquí se ve claramente que se trata de una estructura dentaria y es radiopaca porque esta es la corona del tercer molar inferior, en este caso, y está en una posición horizontal impactado y está inclinándose sobre la raíz del segundo premolar, del segundo molar, perdón. Y eso es muy común y puede causar un daño irreversible en este diente y terminaría el paciente perdiendo este molar a causa de este tercer molar. La recomendación en este caso sería tratar de remover el tercer molar. Aquí es una estructura radiográfica del área del alveolo. Aquí hubo una previa extracción de un molar y esto es lo que queda, la huella donde las raíces estaban. Y esto generalmente debido al sangrado y a los nutrientes que trae la sangre, se va a ir rellenando de tejido reparativo hasta completar estos orificios, llenarlos de tejido óseo nuevamente, que ha sido regenerado. Okay. All right, class. So we're talking right now about how do you identify recurrent decay. Recurrent decay is the process that comes after we place a filling or we restore the tooth. It can happen during a lot of time, in long periods of times, and usually there might be a margin that wasn't very well adapted of this restoration, and as well as this restoration. How do you identify? You see it's a radiolucent structure or shadow. Radiolucent, very dark. Okay? And it's very extended. In the case of this second molar, it's very extended to another radiolucent structure, which is the nerve right here. In the roots of the tooth, as well as in a portion of the crown of the tooth. So most likely, if we want to restore this molar, we might be involving the nerve, and if that's the case, it's going to need what we call a root canal treatment, and followed by a buildup and a crown in this area, on this tooth. Okay, another radiolucency is the scar left after an extraction of the first molar, and this will basically, thanks to the bleeding and the blood situated in these alveolus, this will regenerate in bone tissue, and it will regenerate very well or normally. And we can also prepare this area, putting artificial bone right here, or doing what we call a bone graft to prepare this area for an implant. So basically, this is not a pathology, it's just a shadow of a previous extraction of a first molar. Here, the radiographic palatal and mandibular tori. What is a tori? A tori is an accumulation of calcium or calcium deposits in a certain area of both the maxillary bone and the mandibular bone. It is it can also be caused by constant clenching of the mandible, or the person clenching a lot during the day and during the night, her teeth or his teeth, and it appears like a radial pack, which means very white or grayish structure right here, and right here. So we got mandibular because these are mandibular incisor, got mandibular tori on both sides of the mandible, and we got the palatal tori, which you can see part of it in the roof of your mouth. A supernumerary tooth. How do I identify a supernumerary tooth? It has a very unique shape. It's shaped like a bullet, and it's a very small tooth that normally you can find in between the roots of the two central incisors on the maxillary jaw. What is indicated to do in this case? Try to extract this supernumerary tooth. Supernumerary means that we have extra teeth. Some people are born with this tooth in between the two incisors, or people can have one or more premolars, two or more premolars. Normally we have two, but some people have three. And also the wisdom tooth is, the third molar is considered as a supernumerary tooth. What is a concrescence? Concrescence is a condition of the teeth where the cementum is overlying the roots, at least two teeth joined together. Okay, so this concrescence is cemental tissue. Remember, we have enamel, we have dentin, and then we have the nerve, but also surrounding the nerve, there is a structure that is cement. It's made of cement, and it's deposit of cement, which form a very unique radiopaque structure. Now, when that process grows, that accumulation of cement grows, and it becomes a structure like this, it fuses to this tooth, and it becomes to be an extra tooth or two teeth joined together. Now here in the X-ray, this X-ray is very interesting because we can see also radiolucent areas. This is a big decay, which is already affecting the nerve. And this one is also another process, infectious process, which is also decay. And this is also another one, which is also decay. These are interproximal cavities, and this is caused by the lack of flossing and proper brushing. So bacteria get stuck here, food gets stuck here, then bacteria get stuck here, and they start basically eating up the enamel of the teeth, and that's how the caries process is formed in a tooth. Now, when it happens that the tooth teeth or over this structure, the concrescence, overlies the roots of at least two or more teeth, the cause can be sometimes attributed to the trauma or the crowding of teeth. When you have a patient that has a lot of crowding, usually this can happen. Now, what's the treatment for this? It has to be surgical removal. All right, class. So this topic, the purpose of me explaining this topic is because as a dental assistant, nowadays it's a very competitive career area. There are a lot of assistants out there. So basically is to try to train you to identify certain things that you may help the dentist that you work with. The dentist always depends on the assistant in almost 100%. for the assistant to be efficient. So this area here, even though you're not going to diagnose, is something that in the future, it may help you to identify certain structures. Like I said, basically what we want with this is for you guys to look at a panoramic x-ray and identify what you think is not normal and what you think is a normal process or a normal structure, okay? Remember that they're very difficult. For example, in the radiolucency, there's a lot of chance that you can mistake the diagnosis, thinking that it's a disease or an abscess or a cyst. Well, it really is just an anatomical structure that it could be a foramen. A foramen is a hole, by the way. It's a hole that you see in the bone structure, and it's very normal finding it, especially in between the two mandibular incisors, the lower ones. Okay, so for this class, I have prepared also a quiz or a test it is made out of the topic that we covered today, and it's just basically to see where we're standing in the knowledge and the understanding of the process of this kind of topic. Now, if it's very difficult for you guys, or is there something that I can do to help you, or something that I can do for you guys to understand better, please let me know. I'm here to help you. I'm here for you guys. Now that we're in this new area for me, doing internet classes, which was not, I was not used to it. Back in the day, I used to teach inside of the school in front of my students, but this is the new way that we have to go through the teaching process, and we all have to, make the best of it. I'm very happy to be your instructor. I'm very honored to be your instructor, and I want to congratulate you guys for choosing this amazing career. It's a very rewarding career. I know you're gonna love it, and the dental science, it has a variety of aspects that you guys can try to go and experiment in your later on in your internship. Okay, I want to thank you for attending my class today, and don't forget of the quiz. You will find it attached to the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you very much, and have a good night. Bye bye, guys.